Aptitude, high mid-level talent skills, low-level agility talent, low-level strength talent, mid-level acceleration talent bloodline skills, heaven expansion roar, high-level phantoming, void fire laws mastered, lightning class, boom, darkness class, annihilation, skills, wind protection, frost protection, fire protection, thunder god's armor, dark demon shield, thunder king's body. Dozens more, 117 points. That was the Dark Dragon Hound's combat ability. What surprised Suaping was that the mid-level phantoming ability had been improved to high-level phantoming. High-level phantoming could ignore physical and energy attacks, and significantly weaken the attack of the power of laws. It was undoubtedly an important self-protection skill. Suaping was speechless. He didn't expect that the Dark Dragon Hound could improve its bloodline talent to the high level with the understanding of two laws. That pet was truly talented when it came to self-protection. Who could have thought that such a ferocious-looking battle pet would actually be fully armed with defense skills? However, the Heaven Expansion Dragon had indeed taught a few powerful aggressive techniques to the Dark Dragon Hound. The Heaven Expansion Roar, for example, was a powerful attack skill with a wide effect area. The Void Fire wasn't bad either. It was the true fire of the Heaven Expansion Dragons, which was strong enough to burn space itself. It had mid-high aptitude in the past, and high mid-aptitude right now. Although it's stronger than the Inferno Dragon, its aptitude is actually lower. Is it because its level is higher and it has a better bloodline? The Heaven Expansion Dragon's bloodline inheritance was better than that of the Purple Blood Dragons that the Inferno Dragon had acquired. After all, even the strongest of the Purple Blood Dragons had only reached the Star State. The strongest Heaven Expansion Dragon was at the peak of the Star Lord State and had hoped to reach the Ascendant State. The cluster of clouds would have been even broader if I would have imparted the knowledge to the Dark Dragon Hound before the tribulation. Suaping thought. The Dark Dragon Hound was almost as strong as himself. Unfortunately, he couldn't gauge his own combat ability. However, based on his experience from recent battles, he was confident of killing a regular Star State enemy on par with the Lord of the Deep Caves, even without merging with a pet. The power of two laws, mid-level acceleration, the low-level agility talent and strength were his trump cards to fight enemies beyond his level. More importantly, he had reached the second level of the Solar Bulwark. His body was already as hard as that of the Fate State mythical beasts. The Fate State mythical beasts could easily defeat Fate State warriors. Star State warriors might not be able to kill them. Furthermore, Suaping had a divine body and a sword technique he created with the power of laws. The Chaos Star chart, his cultivation technique, also came from an ancient era and was quite horrifying. All things considered, he could still beat his pets even after teaching them the power of laws. After all, Suaping had been through the same hardships that the pets went through. He had also fought on the battlefield. He had not just commanded his pets from the rear during their training sessions. He had endured devastating battles that he thought would break him. The energy purity in his body was as good as that in his pets. It had been further purified after the refining in the Golden Crow world. The Dark Dragon Hound fused the laws into its own skill right after I taught them, but the Inferno Dragon still hasn't. It has to learn it in real battles, just like how I created a sword technique based on the power of laws. Suaping thought. He looked at the purple python in the rear. That was a battle pet he had personally bred, but it could hardly keep up with him at the moment. Joanna had warned him about this outcome. Most battle pet warriors would abandon pets or terminate contracts when they couldn't keep up, then they would buy and train stronger pets. After all, it was too costly to train an underperforming pet when they should be as strong as them. While the battle pet warriors invested most of their resources on their pets, they would only choose to do so with the ones that showed promise. Not every pet deserved all the investment. Battle pet warriors didn't have endless resources. Therefore, every battle pet warrior had a main pet, several deputy pets, and a lot of expendables. Suaping didn't intend to give up on the purple python. He had been suppressing the snake's level, stopping it from evolving or making a breakthrough so that it would be easier to train it. This would eventually raise its aptitude to a higher level. That was exactly his main objective. Suaping raised his hand and began to pass knowledge onto the purple python. The transfer was done after half an hour had passed. Suaping then looked at the purple python's specs. Property, Combat Family Level, Advanced Phase of the 6th Rank Combat Strength, 98.2 Aptitude, Ultra Mid-Level Talent Skills, Low-Level Agility Talent, Low-Level Strength Talent, Mid-Level Acceleration Talent Bloodline Ability, Tying, Swallowing Skills, Lightning Flash, Rock Escape, Violent Mincing, Million-Ton Whip, 3-Phase Sprinting, Wind Summoning, Mountain Collision, Scale Shield. Ultra Mid-Level. Suaping breathed heavily when he saw the glittering purple words next to the aptitude figure. The Inferno Dragon's high aptitude had already broken the record of his training, but the purple python went and raised the bar once again. Ultra Mid-Level. Even more shockingly, the purple python's combat ability was as good as the peak of the Fate State even while being a 6th rank creature, but it only had an ultra mid aptitude and didn't make it into the Chaos Multiverse ranking. Could the beast not make the cut until it was as strong as a star state being? That was too unbelievable. It had to be noted that the purple python was only in the 6th rank, not even a beast king. Another creature of its level would have been terrified by a beast king, yet it could already fight a peak Fate State beast. It was definitely a super genius that would shock every member in its clan. And yet, it was still unable to enter the list. How many great talents had been recorded in the system's database? Ding! The system's notification sounded. It's been detected that the host has developed a pet with ultra aptitude for the first time. The host will be rewarded with a random advanced training skill. Please keep it up. Ding! It's been detected that the host has developed an ocean state pet with high aptitude. Professional training service for Beast Kings can now be offered by the shop. Ocean State, Void State, and Fate State pets can be trained. The second notification was within Suaping's expectation. He had removed the Dark Dragon Hound's seals and improved its level exactly in order for it to attain a high aptitude. This way the king-level professional training services would be activated. As for the first notification, it was rather a pleasant surprise. A random advanced training skill? Suaping instantly opened the storage space and found a glowing book inside. Advanced Energy Transmission Technique? Suaping was quite curious about the name and instantly chose to learn it. The skill book soon disappeared into his head as a streak of golden light. Suaping then felt that an overwhelming amount of information flooded into his head, almost making it explode. There was so much information that it could have filled a library if it were written on physical books. However, Suaping had extraordinary willpower at the moment. He digested the information at a fast pace even though his head felt it was swelling with the effort. Is this the advanced energy transmission technique? Suaping widened his eyes in shock after understanding the skill. Its effect was truly horrifying. The advanced energy transmission technique was an ancient training technique that could allow one's own energy to communicate with the pets. It was similar to the energy sharing used by titled warriors. However, the energy sharing was conducted through the contract and there would be losses during transmission. For example, when someone transmitted 100 energy points to his pet, the pet could only receive 50 or barely 20 points. The energy transmission technique was quite unbelievable. It didn't rely on contracts, and there was no energy loss. Suaping could also share his energy without the use of a contract to other beasts, so that they could be improved to new levels with the additional energy. He could also collect the energy he had sent out. Both parties would benefit immensely when his energy and the pets communicated. It meant that, if Suaping sent 100 energy points to a beast that had 100 points, the beast would then have 200 points, but when Suaping retrieved the energy, he would receive 120 energy points and the beast would also have 120 points remaining in its body. It would be a win-win. The advanced energy transmission technique is just like the divine fruit that Joanna found for me earlier. but this technique can be used infinitely. Suaping was quite shocked when he considered the implications. It could easily allow him to help other beasts break through. It would be a simple task for them to reach the legendary level from the 9th rank. They couldn't sense the heavenly tribulation? Energy could solve all their problems. Suaping could simply handle the energy issue with the abundant astral power in his body, so that they could break their bottlenecks and invoke a heavenly tribulation. More importantly, the energy transmission technique didn't just work on beasts, it also worked for humans. After all, the system had taught Suaping the idea that every creature could be a pet. Naturally, human beings weren't special. As to why a human couldn't bind another human with a contract, Suaping had yet to figure this out. Maybe it was because the contracts had been established by ancient humans. Suaping learned of their existence in the Golden Crow world. It seemed that the blue planet wasn't the origin of humankind. Human beings had already existed in the primordial age, they had been as strong as the mythical Golden Crows. Maybe the contracts were the inventions of the top sages among the ancient humans, all to aid them in commanding other species and improving their combat ability. After all, a human without a pet would definitely be crushed by someone of their level who did have one. Provided there were enough resources, an ocean state human could sign contracts with a dozen peak void state pets and command them. This person would then have the strength to brutalize a void state or even a fate state enemy. The contracts were of great significance to humankind. If I use this new technique on the Dark Dragon Hound or the Inferno Dragon, our energy will increase much faster than with regular training. We'll be in a super training state all the time. Suaping was excited. Suaping looked at the purple python after he understood the basics of the technique. The purple python was still not as strong as a star state beast, even though it had also inherited the power of 2 laws and the mid-level acceleration talent. Maybe, it had a chance to escape from the weakest star state enemy. It has mastered the power of laws, but it still can't fight star state beings. Is it because it's being restrained by the physical form? After all, it is only at the 6th rank. It's like a baby who cannot perform any sophisticated tricks with its tiny soft hands. I need to further polish its body and compress the energy inside it. As for the white-scaled vast sky thunderous dragon, it was a recent acquaintance, he didn't know whether to keep it as a pet yet. He had only captured it for the system mission. Although its aptitude wasn't bad since it was a mid-level wild beast, Suaping already had an Inferno Dragon. He had vowed to train the Inferno Dragon so that it would become the strongest dragon in the world. Suaping was aiming to deliver on his promise and wasn't interested in other dragons. Even if he got one, he wouldn't spend too much time and effort on it. After all, if he did manage to find the additional time and effort needed, he might as well invest them on the Inferno Dragon to make it stronger. The quality of pets rather than their quantity was what really mattered. He wouldn't consider getting more pets unless it was impossible to further improve the pets he had. However, Suaping was still far away from reaching the limits of what his pets could achieve. The Pet Aptitude book can increase the aptitude by 1 level, right? If I apply it to the purple python, will it enter the Chaos Multiverse ranking? Asked Suaping. The Pet Aptitude book can only increase the pet to the ultra-high level, replied the system. Suaping's eyes widened and he asked, shouldn't there be a 1-level improvement? That is exactly a 1-level improvement. Suaping was gobsmacked by the answer. But still, he realized that it would still be quite horrifying if the ultra-mid level was upgraded to the ultra-high level. The purple python would probably get a few powerful skills. However, since it was impossible for his pet to enter the Chaos Multiverse ranking, giving it the book was not quite the best choice. Even if its aptitude was improved to the ultra-high level, it would only have a star state combat ability. Suaping considered for a moment and decided to save it until the little skeleton returned. So far, the little skeleton was his strongest pet. He wasn't biased towards it, he had to strengthen his best pet for his own safety. It was just like the edge of a saber, it had to be the sharpest part. The little skeleton was Suaping's edge. After pondering a bit more, Suaping decided to return to the temple with Joanna. Then, he set off from the temple and went to a dangerous place in the demigod burial with a star-state god warrior. Die! Suaping commanded the white-scaled vast sky thunderous dragon and the green alligator to charge at an ocean-state beast in that place. The creature had absorbed some divine energy and had become some sort of a semi-divine beast. The beast could unleash a combat ability close to the void state when it made use of the divine energy. Boom! The green alligator was quite brutal, decidedly charging at the enemy. However, it quickly lost its ferocity when the beast roared at them. That flinching moment was enough for the beast to get close with the air of divinity and a much higher speed. It slapped the green alligator in the head and tore off part of its scalp. The agony and the intimidation robbed the green alligator of its fighting will. It turned around in panic and fled. As for Suaping's command, they had just signed a temporary contract. The creature was only partly loyal to Suaping. It became furious when Suaping basically asked it to kill itself. It no longer obeyed him. The killing intent skill was activated. Suaping pointed with his finger from a distance. The crazily fleeing alligator suddenly had bloodshot eyes and erect scales. It roared furiously and charged at the beast. The latter was slightly surprised, not expecting its prey to suddenly become that fierce. However, you dare to fight back? I'm going to kill you. The nearby 9th rank drakeling didn't back off. It released various lightning skills to block the beast's attack. Boom! The fierce green alligator was torn to pieces. The beast then roared when it saw the drakeling, since it was still casting skills. The roar was quite intimidating, but the white-scaled vast sky thunderous dragon didn't stop attacking after shivering for a moment. It looked even more ruthless. Suaping slightly nodded as he watched the battle. The young dragon was even more relentless than the green alligator, perhaps because it had been intimidated by the Dragon King before. The young one was not as scared when facing the ocean state beast, which was far weaker than the Dragon King. The wild beast felt it had been severely insulted when its roar didn't awe its enemy. It became even more furious and quickly took action. A rock spear rose from the ground and pierced through the white-scaled vast sky thunderous dragon like a mountain. Revive! Revive! Suaping instantly revived both of them and commanded them to continue fighting. The young dragon was obviously stunned. Then, Suaping's command came. The dragon turned around and looked at Suaping. Then, it thought of what had taken place in the thunderous woods. Its father had blocked the hunters on its own to protect it. Its mother begged desperately for its safety. It had never felt more helpless or devastated before. Roar! The drakeling roared crazily, determined to become stronger. It was determined to become stronger. The drakeling charged forward even more bravely than the green alligator, doing so without the boost of Suaping's killing intent skill. It was covered in dazzling lightning that tore apart the space around it. That was in fact a bloodline ability unique to the vast sky thunderous dragons. That dragon race was congenitally familiar with space. They could understand it and directly enter the void state when they became adults, as long as their brains were normal. At this moment the white-scaled dragon was only in the 9th rank, but its move had already shaken the surrounding space. The skill hit the beast through space like a flash. Bang! The skill struck and injured the enemy, but it didn't cause any heavy wounds. The beast roared in shock and fury. It abandoned the green alligator and charged at the vast sky thunderous dragon. Flash, dodge and attack. The young dragon showed great battle prowess, quickly dodging the beast's attack and continuing with a flurry of attacks. The green alligator was obviously surprised by the strength of its shorty comrade, especially since its level was too low. Killing intent. Exactly at that moment, Suaping used his skill and filled its head with killing intent. Roar! The green alligator also roared and charged out. 5 minutes later, the place gradually became quiet when the battle ended. The white-scaled vast sky thunderous dragon and the green alligator had worn the beast to death. The little one had perceived the mysteries of space after the battle. It could have broken through to the void state if it had enough cultivation. It would have been a great battle pet outside. Suaping saw that its aptitude had been improved from the mid-level to the mid-mid level. One fight had produced a minor improvement. Suaping gave a slight nod. He intended to train the dragon to attain a high-level aptitude. The young beast had a great power of understanding. Suaping would have chosen it as his main pet, but he already had the Inferno dragon. They had developed a deep bond. He could only train it as a substitute pet for the moment. Suaping had quite a few pet positions anyway. He could keep it until he found a more suitable pet. Space trembled after finishing off the ocean state beast, then a void state beast stormed out. Right on time. Suaping instantly asked the pets to keep fighting. He also asked the dark dragon hound, the Inferno dragon and the purple python to look for other beasts. If they wanted to exercise, they could only look for the peak fate state or star state beasts. There were also a lot of exotic fruits in the place. Many gods in the demigod burial would collect the fruits, but that place was so dangerous that they might accidentally get killed even though the fruits were great. Right then Suaping was simply collecting the unusual flowers and fruits he saw on the way, while the training progressed. He directly gave most of what he collected to the Dark Dragon Hound and the Inferno Dragon, even if some of them were lethal. The pets could be revived even if they were killed anyway. If eating the fruits once would get the pets killed, they could keep on eating them until they became resistant and were able to absorb them. Some of the fruits that the frost beasts loved contained a powerful ice energy. The Inferno felt quite uncomfortable after eating some of them. Still, it was later able to perceive some water skills after the digestion. As for the remaining fruits, Suaping would take them back and sell them in his shop. However, Suaping had soon realized that pet food was not nearly as profitable as the training services. That was another reason why he preferred giving the precious pet food to his pets instead of selling it. He preferred foregoing some of the possible profit if they could be strengthened by the fruits. A day passed by. The green alligator had already been trained until it reached the mid-level aptitude. Even though it was only an ocean state creature, it had understood the mysteries of space along with the young dragon. It could flash through the secondary space. It could also use skills to hit the enemy through the secondary space. Such results proved that one could make faster progress by following a top student. While the white-scaled vast sky thunderous dragon's aptitude was still mid-mid, it was even more familiar with the mysteries of space. Suaping trained it as his secondary pet. He would take it to future training sessions, and its aptitude would reach a high level sooner or later. Suaping returned to his shop. He then went to the demigod burial again, this time with the other vast sky thunderous dragons he had caught. Since there were 10 of them, he could only take them in with 2 batches. Suaping had chosen the void state dragons for the first batch. All of them were quite surprised to see the drakeling, since it was a huge scandal in their clan. Lyshan the Dragon King's child and the strongest warrior in the clan had mated with a lowborn serpent and given birth to a crossbreed. The white-scaled vast sky thunderous dragon was exactly as it was claimed to be, a lowborn crossbreed. The young beast was also surprised to see fellow clansmen. However, it didn't have time to catch up with them, it quickly started fighting again. The drakeling was even more ferocious in the next round of battles and was making progress even faster. The other vast sky thunderous dragons were shocked by its performance. They didn't expect that the inferior hybrid could be that brutal. It was only a 9th rank creature, but it already had the strength to resist a void state beast for half a minute. It was almost unbelievable. Suaping decided to go deeper into the dangerous territories when the turn for the second batch of dragons came. 3 of them were at the fate state. He came across many fate state beasts, with the occasional one at the star state. The drakeling had just become accustomed to void state foes, but it was soon facing fate state enemies. It was cornered and pushed to its limits again. Apart from rapidly growing drakeling, the dark dragon hound, the inferno dragon and the purple python had also benefited a lot from the battles. They were more familiarized with the power of laws that Suaping had taught them, and they could fuse it with their own skills. Adding the exotic fruits they ate on the way, their combat ability was further improved. The purple pythons even reached 99 points. Suaping felt a headache when he met such a limit again. But he wasn't too anxious this time. If he could perceive another law and teach it to the purple python, its combat ability would probably surpass the 100 mark. The training in the demigod burial made the vast sky thunderous dragons panic. The Fate State trio was even appalled. None of them had been aware that the human kept such a horrifying secret. They had never been to that place, and the beasts were entirely different from those on the rumbling thunder continent. Most of them carried a sacred aura and were able to unleash a much greater strength. One of the older dragons, which actually had an advanced Fate State level, was even taught a lesson by a mid-Fate State beast. However, all of them showed quick growth when Suaping revived and healed them. Suaping was not afraid that the pets would leak the secret after they left. Thanks to the binding power of the almighty power of the system, they would never be able to reveal any secrets of the cultivation sites, even if they learned the human language. The silencing ability was beyond what Suaping could understand. Time zipped by. The sun rose and the stars fell on planet Rhea. The night was over. Many people had gathered on the street when it was barely dawn. This street was particularly lively on that day. If one were to make a turn on that street, there would be a young vast sky thunderous dragon standing outside a pet shop named Stars. The creature was a dozen meters long and could be considered a teenager. The street was so wide that the dragon didn't block the way whatsoever. Next to the young dragon were several female employees who were promoting the store's specials. The vast sky thunderous dragons are on sale. New vast sky thunderous dragons with B and qualities are waiting for you. Not every customer was interested. Lots of hunters were trying to catch vast sky thunderous dragons on Rhea in that time of year, and many battle pet warriors made the trip on spaceships to buy them. Therefore, many pet shops offered special discounts on those dragons so they wouldn't miss out. All those pet shops either had their own training bases or hired professional hunters to catch dragons on the rumbling thunder continent. While the vast sky thunderous dragons were popular, they were available in a lot of shops. Only those with high quality could attract attention. B and quality was already high for a beast. Further above was the A quality, which couldn't be acquired without strenuous training. Such dragons were the best in their clan. Some customers were soon attracted to that shop by the B and quality advertising. I was told that someone sells vast sky thunderous dragons on this street. Is it this shop? I don't think so. I remember that the place is called Astral Pet Store. That's quite easy to remember. But there's also dragons available in this shop with B and quality. Should we take a look at it? More and more customers were attracted and started to gather outside the shop. Some of the customers who had visited Suaping's shop the day prior found it impossible to squeeze in, so they simply went to Suaping's shop. However, they found that Suaping's shop was still closed when they got there. It's already 9 o'clock. The shop hasn't opened yet? Many people were speechless. Some even wondered if the shop owner was frustrated by the B and quality pets in the other store and preferred not to be eclipsed by them. The shop is still not open? I'll pass. Let's go back to the first shop and see how much the B and dragons go for. Many people ran out of patience outside of Suaping's shop and were about to leave. Right at that moment Suaping's shop was opened. This many people? Hardly had he opened the shop when he found dozens of people outside. He was slightly surprised, but not too much. After all, the arrival of 10 vast sky thunderous dragons was quite a good marketing strategy. Tang Ruyan and Zhong Lingtong were still learning the common tongue, so Suaping would have to welcome the customers on his own. Come on in, please, said Suaping after he turned around and entered the shop. Hurry, hurry. A lot of people had glittering eyes when Suaping opened the shop. After all, a shop able to take in 10 dragons in one go surely had a powerful background, and the dragons themselves couldn't be too bad. Even if they weren't B quality, C quality would still be fine as it was more affordable to most people. Not everybody was seeking A quality ultimate pets, which were only affordable to the wealthy. Most people would settle for one that was good enough. They would at the very least be happy if they could summon one. Who could tell the quality of a pet from its appearance? Boss, where are the vast sky thunderous dragons? Are they available today? I want to buy one. I was already here yesterday. Boss, I came first. Many people swarmed into the shop. After seeing so many people rushing in, Su Ping quickly said, "Line up! Line up! No fighting!" One brawny man yelled in the crowd and squeezed his way to the front. "Get lost! I came here first! Get out of the way!" The brawny man emitted a void state aura which intimidated the others. The person who lost his spot to the man was an ocean state battle pet warrior. He was angry but unwilling to argue against the rude fellow. "As I said, don't fight. Please go back to your position," said Su Ping coldly after seeing that happen. The brawny man had just gotten in the position he stole. He was stunned to hear what Su Ping told him and replied with an angry tone, "Boss, mind your own business. When did I fight? He gave his place to me willingly. Anyway, hurry up and stop wasting our time." He saw that Su Ping was only an ocean state warrior, so he didn't consider him a big deal. That was indeed a powerful shop. Since they had been able to catch 10 dragons, that young man was definitely not the one who did it. The burly man saw Su Ping as a mere representative of the real owner. Su Ping became completely cold after his response. He said, "Please leave. You're not welcome in this shop." "What?" The brawny man almost couldn't believe his ears. The other customers were just as surprised. The victim didn't even complain, but the owner is going to oust the guy anyway? The brawny man was furious after hearing what Su Ping said. He laughed in fury and quickly snapped, "You're asking me to leave? I'm here to buy 3 vast sky thunderous dragons. Do you even know who I am? Do you know how much money I have?" Su Ping said indifferently. "I don't care who you are. My shop, my rules. Anna, throw him out." "Yes, sir." Joanna, who was standing by the pet room door, accepted the task and casually approached the brawny man. "She's even more beautiful than Alicia, isn't she? Oh my god, I adore her. It's true that the real beautiful girls are never on TV. I'll be a hardcore fan of this shop just because of her." The men were all excited, staring with glowing eyes. The women felt uncomfortable when they heard the whispers, but they found Joanna so extraordinary that they almost couldn't envy her. "You're really going to kick me away?" The brawny man changed his expression when he saw Joanna. It would be humiliating for any male to be kicked out in front of such a beautiful woman. He was slightly regretful. He would have acted like a gentleman and not forced his way to cut in line if he had known of her existence. He would have then shown off his wealth by buying 3 Fate State dragons in one go. He was sure he would have caught that girl's attention. "I gave you a chance," said Su Ping indifferently. The brawny man said angrily, "Do you know who I am? You're just a minor manager. If keep on pissing me off, I'll just spend some money and ask your boss to fire you." He wasn't threatening to close the shop, but to fire Su Ping. It wouldn't be a problem for him to pay some money to the owner and ask him to replace the manager. Anyone would be willing to replace a manager for several hundred million. After all, managers could be hired anywhere. Do it. Su Ping no longer bothered to waste time on him. "Miss, this shop will be closed sooner or later with such a manager." The brawny man spoke to Joanna with a different tone and attitude as a way to impress her. However, Joanna simply extended her fingers and grabbed him by the nape after confining him. She held him at a distance as she pulled him out of the shop. Well, everybody's jaws reached the ground when they saw that happen. The brawny man was a void state warrior who was openly showing his cultivation. And yet, the girl was able to carry him away that easily. The brawny man was rather stunned as well. He tried to break free, but he found that his astral power had been blocked, as if a layer of cement were stuck to his skin. There was also a horrifying power that was restraining all his movements. The brawny man looked at Joanna in shock. having a hard time believing that she could be that strong. Bang! The next moment, the brawny man was thrown out of the shop. He fell on the ground and tumbled rather embarrassingly. The passers-by on the street were greatly surprised. What happened? Is someone causing trouble in this shop? This man was thrown out? He's a void state warrior, isn't he? Look, oh my god! Are my eyes deceiving me? Is she the boss of this shop? I believe in love again. Many of the people outside were enthralled by Joanna. Just like the goddess she was, Joanna acted cold and indifferent when she threw the man out and then returned to the shop. She didn't say a single word, because those people didn't deserve her time. That's right. She was that proud. The customers inside the shop were dazed. It never occurred to them that the troublemaker would really be thrown out of the shop as Suaping promised. The shop had just opened, and it had competitors on the street. Contrary to custom, the first thing Suaping did was not to sell the vast sky thunderous dragons as quickly as possible. Instead, he kicked out a major client who was hoping to buy 3 of them. Is he crazy? Should anyone do business like that? Is he not afraid of pissing off other customers? Although the person thrown out was a line cutter, he was also a customer. Some of the people present were blindly taking his side. Some people were actually looking at Suaping in an unfriendly way at the moment, since they were only considering a customer standpoint. The line cutter was a customer and, supposedly, a king. Many of the modest customers thought that they would be further despised, given how a major client had been kicked out. A few guys who felt disrespected as customers urged Suaping unhappily. Boss, sell the dragons already, I want to see their quality. I'll go to the Astral Pet Store right now if they aren't B-end quality. Maybe I can get one there. Yes, boss. Time for business. The other people didn't say anything, but they were obviously hopeful to see the vast sky thunderous dragons, too. Suaping didn't waste any more of the time, seeing how eager they were. He asked Joanna to take 3 vast sky thunderous dragons out after she returned. 3 dragons walked out of the pet room soon after and stood in the lobby. They had been miniaturized and were only 5 meters long. The lobby, which had already been filled with customers, quickly became even more crammed. One of them is a Fate State dragon. Oh my goodness! It takes top hunters to catch Fate State vast sky thunderous dragons, doesn't it? Boss, how much are they? What's the minimum price? Everybody looked at the dragons excitedly. Some were already asking Suaping for a quote. Suaping looked at them and said, the vast sky thunderous dragon number 1 is in the advanced phase of the void state. Its price is 420 million. Does anyone want it? The shop was caught in a brief silence spell after he spoke. The young man whose position in the line had been stolen earlier quickly said, I do. Everybody else snapped out of their stupor and looked at Suaping in shock. 420 million? One vast sky thunderous dragon for 420 million. Did my ears deceive me? Or did the boss misspeak? I remember that the lowest price for a vast sky thunderous dragons is 1 billion. Even the younglings are 600 to 700 million. Suaping's offer shocked all the customers. That was too cheap, much lower than the market price. Suaping seemed impassive on the outside, but their exclamations were stabbing his heart like knives. Although the hunting had been a walk in the park and selling 1 dragon for millions of energy points was a fair deal, he surely would have earned much more if he could have sold the dragons for the market price. However, the vast sky thunderous dragon was just a normal, unremarkable species in the eyes of the system. You want it, right? Pay up then, said Suaping to the young man who bid first. The young man was stunned, clearly not expecting Suaping to accept without waiting for other bidders. Is this not an auction? Enthused, he quickly approached Suaping and said, Thank you, boss. Suaping wasn't in a hurry. He said, Let me tell you the rules first. You cannot resell the pet or terminate the contract within 10 years unless the circumstances are special. The young man was quite stunned, knowing that Suaping was afraid that he would sell it to someone else. He was instantly hesitant. He had been quick to bid exactly because he was intending to resell the pet. The low price indicated that the vast sky thunderous dragon was of an inferior quality. Even though it was an advanced void state creature, there was a chance that its real combat ability couldn't even be compared to the mid-phase of the void state. The dragon looked ferocious, but the price belied its lesser quality. Some of the vast sky thunderous dragons were abnormal due to the poor environment they grew up in. They couldn't even defeat some of the other beasts in their level, not to mention the stronger dragons of their species. They were like sick, lethargic tigers that even dogs might be able to defeat. Well, the young man hesitated. Exactly at the same time, another brown-haired young man shouted, "Boss, I'm willing to buy it." "Me too. I also want to buy it." A few other customers joined in the bidding, but not as enthusiastically as before. All of them were thinking along the same lines. Such a low price suggested that the pet was definitely flawed. Why else would it be so cheap? "Boss, I'm buying it for my own use. I won't resell it." The brown-haired young man was quite earnest. He didn't have much money, even if that dragon had flaws, he could still train it and make do with it. It was a vast sky thunderous dragon anyway, better than most pets as it was. "Deal." Suaping nodded. First come, first served. He guessed what was on the young man's mind, after seeing the latter's hesitation and unwillingness to accept the terms. The brown-haired young man quickly transferred the money. "Go and sign the contract," said Suaping. The young man moved forward and signed the contract under everyone's eyes. Roar! Hardly had the contract been completed when a brutal and ferocious roar echoed in his consciousness. It was the roar of the vast sky thunderous dragon. The brown-haired young man raised his head, only to find that the dragon had cold eyes and a brutal aura. His heart couldn't help but tremble when he saw those eyes. He felt like he was looking at a lethal beast. What is going on? A flawed vast sky thunderous dragon is this brutal? I feel like it will even attack me if I force it to follow an order. The brown-haired young man was quite shocked. Character was the key to the pet's weaknesses. The stronger a pet was, the more brutal and aggressive it would be. Even the pets that played cute in front of their masters could be exceptionally brutal against enemies even if their master had tamed them. Someone really bought it. This vast sky thunderous dragon is well decorated. It looks intimidating, but it can't be as strong as it seems. A void state vast sky thunderous dragon for 420 million. That's the new minimum price. The other people were disapproving of the young man's decision. A deeply flawed vast sky thunderous dragon would never beat a good quality pet. The brown-haired young man simply kept the dragon in the storage space after the contract was completed and left Suaping's shop to have his pet assessed across the street. He intended to find out how exactly the pet was flawed, that way he could give a proper report to his trainer for pertinent training later. Suaping began to sell the second vast sky thunderous dragon after the brown-haired young man left. Suaping made another offer, advanced void state, 415 million. Everybody was shocked again as they heard the second offer, not expecting the beast to be just as flawed as the first one. The price was actually lower than the first one. Doesn't it mean that it's even worse? While everybody looked at each other in bewilderment, a girl spoke up in the crowd. "Boss, I want it." It was a purple-haired Ocean State warrior. She felt rather nervous to talk in front of a bunch of Ocean State and Void State warriors. "Okay," Suaping nodded and said, "You know the rules. Don't resell the pet, or you will permanently be blacklisted in this shop." "I'm buying it for myself," said the purple-haired girl in a low voice. Suaping nodded. A hunched old man shook his head and said, "Young lady, it's best not to buy such a greatly flawed pet. You might as well buy a Class B Void State pet with the money, it may have a better fighting ability than this one." "That's right. Even if you want to train this dragon, it would still cost a lot, and it wouldn't be as effective as you think." I didn't think that all the vast sky thunderous dragons in this shop would be flawed. Someone was curious about the vast sky thunderous dragon's aptitude. Boss, what's the aptitude of this vast sky thunderous dragon? It can't be D, can it? A D vast sky thunderous dragon was almost rare. Sui Ping raised his eyebrows. He was still lost when it came to aptitude classification according to the Federation, but the system considered the vast sky thunderous dragon to have a mid-level aptitude already. All the pets in my shop have average aptitude, said Sui Ping. Average? What do you mean by average? That's so ambiguous. Is it possible that the pet isn't even D? Oh my god! Everybody found it hard to understand what Sui Ping said. Average. You have an average look and average body figure. Was average a good remark? Also, a pet whose aptitude was likely Class D was said to be average according to Sui Ping. Then, wouldn't Class B be ultimate? Another person couldn't help but ask, Boss, you just said that all the vast sky thunderous dragons you sell have average aptitude. Are they all like this? The other customers also became anxious. They had heard that there were 10 vast sky thunderous dragons in Sui Ping's shop. They were intending to see something else. If all the dragons were as flawed as the first one, wouldn't their hopes be dashed with such a deal? They were starting to regret, thinking that they had made a long trip over for nothing. Average aptitude is the minimum requirement for the pets sold in this shop. There will be higher aptitudes later, said Sui Ping. A lot of people felt concerned once they heard that. Even though Sui Ping claimed that the average aptitude was the lowest requirement of his store, they didn't know how high the aptitudes could be for the best pets. Someone was even suspecting that the 10 vast sky thunderous dragons that Sui Ping's shop had were inferior beasts acquired through illegal sources. If they were inferior beasts, getting 10 of them wouldn't be a problem at all. While everybody guessed, exclamations and roars were heard outside. Oh my god! I heard that the pet assessment shop over there just found a Class A pet. Are you serious? Class A? What's the pet? It seems to be a vast sky thunderous dragon. Let's go there and find out. Some of the most disinterested customers heard the exclamations and quickly left Sui Ping's store to check things out. None of them were weak, being warriors able to afford and have a vast sky thunderous dragon. They could overhear the conversations hundreds of meters away, unless they were being blocked by astral power. They were all excited to hear that there was a beast with Class A aptitude. Class A aptitude meant that it was an ultimate battle pet, which was extremely rare. Tier 4 or Tier 5 planets would only have a handful of them. Those beasts were as rare as the battle pet warriors enrolled in the top 5 academies in Sylvie. Let's go there and find out. A Class A pet, which is also a vast sky thunderous dragon. I wonder if he's willing to sell it. Tisk, tisk. I've never seen a Class A vast sky thunderous dragon before. I wonder what it looks like. All the customers in Sui Ping's shop instantly swarmed out and headed to the pet assessment shop. That shop was flooded by Sui Ping's previous customers and the battle pet warriors on the street. A Class A pet was beyond astounding. The fact that it was a vast sky thunderous dragon made it all the more exhilarating. Oh my god, it really is a vast sky thunderous dragon. Look at the readings. They're really purple, Class A. Many people looked at the test pillar in the hall, which was glowing with all kinds of data glamorously. There was also a projection that showed a vast sky thunderous dragon being scanned in the test room. Someone experienced remarked with envy and jealousy, the readings are starting to stabilize. It's definitely a Class A pet. Having a Class A pet was shocking enough, but it was actually the popular pick, a vast sky thunderous dragon. Is the pet owner someone from the Rein family? Not necessarily, maybe he's from another planet. He could have tested it in his family's facilities. Someone was so envious that he wailed, "When can I get a Class A pet? I'm fine with any from the combat class." That was how the world functioned, beautiful girls for rich guys, ultimate pets for major families or powerful organizations. People like him who had no background could only watch. It was also why so many people hunted pets in the wilderness. All of them hoped they could catch a wild ultimate pet and then grow rich overnight. One common vast sky thunderous dragon would cost 1 billion at least, while one graded with A class was worth tens of billions. Some of the major families would even go as far as to spend 100 billion on such a pet to nurture and empower a descendant. A brown-haired young man was rooted on the spot, right in the midst of the crowd while feeling completely blown away. He had simply tested the vast sky thunderous dragon he had just fought to detect its flaws. However, the testing pillar emanated purple light. The readings didn't drop either, after becoming purple. It was obvious that no flaws had been detected to drag them down. A Class A pet? I only paid about 400 million for a Class A vast sky thunderous dragon? His ears were ringing considering all the jealous remarks directed at him. He felt as if he were dreaming. Everything was so unreal. Wow! Everybody exclaimed. The result is out. The test has been completed. It really is a Class A. It's actually A, but that is still extremely rare. It can be sold for tens of billions. Everybody in the assessment shop exclaimed excitedly. All of them coveted beasts such as the great vast sky thunderous dragon and wanted to claim it, but they knew that whoever owned such a pet would most likely have some backing, and they couldn't do anything. A young purple-haired woman quickly walked to the brown-haired young man in the crowd. "Hello, your pet has been tested. This way, please, let's have a talk," said the woman passionately. Those who knew her were quite surprised, as they had done everything to catch her attention and failed in the past. They never thought she would look at a male so invitingly. "Hey!" The brown-haired young man finally moved his eyes away from the A result on the testing pillar and looked at the purple-haired woman. His eyes glittered the moment he looked at her. She was very beautiful and elegant. Still, he came to his senses and said warily, "A talk? About what? Who are you?" "Sorry for my presumptuousness, I'm the manager of this shop." "This is my place," said the woman quickly and sincerely. "I wanted to talk to you about the selling of your pet." "Selling?" The brown-haired young man changed his face. "They want to get my dragon because of its A rating? Is she being serious?" There was no way that he would give away such a great pet. The conversation between the young man and manager soon attracted everybody's attention. Many of them looked at the unremarkable youngster. "This A battle pet belongs to him? This guy looks downright mediocre. Weird. He looks awfully familiar. I think I've seen him from somewhere. Ah, I remember it now. Isn't he the guy who bought a flawed vast sky thunderous dragon in the pet shop? Damn, that's right. Seriously? Is this dragon the one he bought just now? How is it possible? He bought that one for a measly 400 million. They can't be the same." The customers who had been to Suo Ping's shop were discussing it heatedly. The others who weren't present during the sale were surprised that any vast sky thunderous dragon could be sold for such a low price. "Dude, is this vast sky thunderous dragon the one you bought in that shop?" someone couldn't help but ask. The brown-haired young man thought of Suo Ping's shop and was shocked. He looked at everybody else. The customers who had been to Suo Ping's shop were obviously suspicious and found it hard to believe. A treasure trove. That shop was a treasure trove and nobody knew about it. The brown-haired young man's eyes were bloodshot. A random pet he got was already rated as A. What about the other vast sky thunderous dragons in the shop? Nobody had realized it yet except him. Swoosh! The young man's heart was beating so fast he felt it was about to jump out of his chest. His mouth was dry, and he had no time to talk to the pretty girl. He simply sent his dragon back into his storage space. He then excused himself and quickly left the crowd. He walked so fast he almost seemed to be running. Many people were awed by the A pet, so no one dared to stand in his way. Those whom he bumped into only dared to secretly curse at him, yet no one said anything out loud. The young man soon rushed to the shop's entrance. Then, he took a turn and went straight to Sua Ping's shop. Once he was by the door, those who noticed where the young man was going exclaimed, "He's going to that shop? Did he really buy the dragon there?" All the people in the lobby were deeply shocked by this. He paid 400 million for that dragon? How is that possible? Were the pets in that shop never tested? If so, the boss of the shop is being too careless. An employee next to the assessment shop's door said suspiciously, "I just saw that he came from that shop right across the street." Many people rushed out of the shop with glowing eyes once they heard that. Boom! Some people who had previously waited in line to enter Sua Ping's shop were so shocked that they crazily ran back to the Pixie Pet store without considering whether that claim had been true. The crowded assessment shop only had a few clerks left, even the door had been broken by the swarming people. The purple-haired woman walked to her employee and asked very solemnly at this moment, "Nana, are you sure of that?" The clerk panicked. She casually replied, I'm sure." Whoosh! The manager quickly disappeared and joined the crowd heading to Sua Ping's shop. "Is the Class A rating very high?" Sua Ping also heard the exclamations earlier. He was surprised to see that all the customers had rushed out to check the assessment store in the blink of an eye. If it's that attractive, is it because it's a rarely seen super pet? Even he became slightly curious. However, there was one customer left in his shop, which was the young purple-haired girl who was willing to buy another vast sky thunderous dragon. "Make the transfer if you want to get this dragon," Sua Ping said to the girl. The purple-haired girl also looked at the crowd leaving but refrained from joining. She was more intent on finishing her own deal first. She nodded. "Yes. I'd like to buy 2 dragons if it's possible. Do you have any void state ones?" "Yes." Sua Ping nodded and said, "All the pets in my shop must be under contract when they leave the shop, meaning that you must at least have 2 pet positions." "I do." The purple-haired girl was rather timid. Once he saw that, Sua Ping said to Joanna, "Take a void state dragon out." Joanna went to the back without saying a word, soon returning with the requested void state dragon. "This one costs 480 million. "Make the payment first," said Sua Ping. The girl looked at it and found that it was slightly stronger. The difference was obvious even though its size had been reduced. She nodded and transferred the money to Sua Ping. It happened to be the last day of the week. The Thunder Ocean fruit would be replaced by another product once the day was over. He would have enough energy even if only 5 dragons were sold. "Go sign the contracts," said Sua Ping. The purple-haired girl nodded and walked to where Joanna and the 2 dragons were, ready to bond them as pets. Someone broke into the shop right then. It was exactly the brown-haired young man who had returned, breathing heavily due to the running. He was surprised to see that the store was empty, but then he felt delighted. He had feared being too late to get the other dragons. However, the others didn't seem to have realized how precious Sua Ping's vast sky thunderous dragons were. All of them had been lured away by the assessment across the street. Nobody was in his way. It was almost the best opportunity. The young man was excited. He then recognized the purple-haired girl who was in the process of bonding pets and his expression changed. The girl heard the noise when the young man broke into the shop. She turned around and recognized that he was the one who bought the first vast sky thunderous dragon. Why did he run back so quickly? Is there something wrong with the dragon he bought? The girl became uneasy as she thought about that. "Hey!" Sua Ping was slightly curious to see the young man return, but the latter's eyes made him realize that the guy must have found that the dragon he had bought was well worth it. Sua Ping knew that the pets he sold were definitely the best among the pets in the same price range. His conclusion was based on his knowledge of the system and his confidence in his training. That was the reason why he didn't have to please customers, he only needed to sell the pets in order. "Boss, I'd like to buy those 2 dragons," the young man said, seeing that the girl hadn't completed a contract yet. He thought again and added quickly, "I'd like all the vast sky thunderous dragons in your shop." "What?" The purple-haired girl was wondering whether to ask for a refund, but was then shocked by what the young man said. "You're not here to return the dragon? And you're planning to buy all the pets in Sua Ping's shop?" While the girl was racking her brain about it, many more customers broke into the shop. The door of the shop would have been busted open if it were normal, but it withstood the effort as if made of iron. Some Void State Battle Pet warriors tried to push the edge of the door, only to find that it was impossible to shake. Some of the customers who actually intended to break the door were greatly shocked they eventually had to squeeze through the crowd. Once the customers were lined up, Sua Ping would usually ask them to stay in order. He had already kicked a line cutter out. No wonder that shop didn't sell anything when it was opened, even kicking honorable guests out. They'd be happy even if Sua Ping yelled at them right to their faces, as long as he sold the Class A pets to them. "Don't push! Don't push! Damn it! Stop trying to squeeze through! Boss, do you have any more Vast Sky Thunderous Dragons? I'd like to take them all. Get lost! I want them too! Boss, I only need one. Just name your price. I'll pay you 10 billion immediately, as long as it has Class A aptitude. Get the hell out of here! You want to buy a pet with Class A aptitude for only 10 billion? It's a Vast Sky Thunderous Dragon, not AF**ing Big Grey Cat. Big Grey Cat?" All the customers were pushing and shoving each other. Those who failed to reach the front could only yell to make their offers. The fierce competition dumbfounded the purple-haired girl, who was even more shocked by the customers' exclamations. She wasn't a fool. The fierce competition she saw, plus the noises outside, was the pet that was assessed to have a Class A aptitude, the Vast Sky Thunderous Dragon from Sua Ping's shop. The purple-haired girl was stunned. But that dragon was only sold for 400 million. How could it possibly have a Class A aptitude? Sua Ping thought along those lines upon seeing their reaction. He asked the brown-haired young man, "Is the Vast Sky Thunderous Dragon I sold you just now the Class A aptitude pet they're all raving about?" The young man became quite anxious when he saw the customers behind him, especially those who were bidding high figures. He was shocked to hear Sua Ping's curious question, knowing he was truly lucky. The boss doesn't seem to know how terrifying his pets are. He suddenly lost interest in buying more pets, turning around and fleeing the place suddenly felt like a more sensible choice. Why would he flee? Based on Sua Ping's reaction, he became certain that the shop had never tested the pet's aptitude. It was just selling the pets at random. Maybe he had been unbelievably lucky to have purchased the only Class A pet in the shop. If the boss learned of that, he might vomit blood in fury and demand the customer to return the pet. There was no way that he would return such a precious pet he had gotten with only 400 million. Well, faced with Sua Ping's question, the brown-haired young man thought for a moment and then clasped his hands in salute. "Thank you, boss. I'll be on my way." "Sua Ping, I only asked you a random question. Why are you so panicked? Also, didn't you want to buy all the remaining pets? You don't want them anymore?" Sua Ping always abided by the first-come first-served policy. He might sell all the pets if the guy was willing to buy them and had enough open spots. That son of a *ch is leaving. Why doesn't he want the other Vast Sky Thunderous Dragons? Is this whole thing just a marketing strategy? Does he work for this shop? Some of the customers were shocked and suspicious to see that the young man was leaving. The young man then saw that the shop was crammed with people. He could not leave. There were also many guys who wanted to go in. He uneasily squeezed through the crowd, not caring about anything else. He didn't want to be stopped by Sua Ping or forced to return the pet. Sua Ping didn't stop the young man who was determined to go. He looked at the crowd and said, "Quiet." He exerted strength on his throat, making his human voice sound like a dragon roar. His intimidating aura instantly silenced the noisy shop. Many people looked at Sua Ping and found him as threatening as a dragon that had assumed a human shape. "Line up! Leave this shop if you don't want to," declared Sua Ping coldly, Don't yell or cut in line while in my shop. First come, first served. Visit us another day if you don't get what you want. A lot of people widened their eyes after hearing that. How could there be such a businessman? Visit us another day if you don't get what you want? Do you think yours is the only shop in the world? Many people were infuriated, but held back when remembering the young man's top dragon. Whether or not it was a marketing strategy, they decided to check out Suaping's remaining pets first. Suaping gave Joanna a hint, asking her to help line up the customers. Most of them calmed down after they saw Joanna and obediently stood next to one another. The brown-haired young man finally found a gap when the customers were lined up and quickly left the shop. Lily. A purple-haired woman drew close at that moment and saw the girl with the same hair color. Why are you here? Did you also buy a pet? The purple-haired girl was rather surprised to see her. She exclaimed, Sister Cleo. Don't cut in line, okay, someone said to Cleo unhappily. Cleo looked at him and ignored him. She said to Suaping behind the counter, she's a cousin of mine. Can I say something to her? Suaping shrugged. You have to wait in line if you want to buy something, but you're free to do anything else. The others calmed down once they saw that Cleo was not another competitor. Cleo quickly approached the purple-haired girl and asked, did the young man who just left buy a vast sky thunderous dragon in this store? Sister Cleo, why are you here? Did he test the pet in your place? Does it really have Class A aptitude? Asked Lily in disbelief. Answer my question first, said Cleo solemnly. Yes. That guy bought a pet here, a lot of people witnessed it. He only paid a bit over 400 million, said Lily. The customers who hadn't been to Suaping's shop earlier gasped when they overheard that. 400 million for a vast sky thunderous dragon was a true bargain. The dragon had also been tested and it had a Class A aptitude. That guy was truly lucky. Cleo was taken aback when she heard Lily's answer, but she soon came to her senses and glanced at the girl's newly bought dragons. Did you buy these too? Yes. I've already paid for them and was about to establish contracts with them. Lily nodded and asked, Sister Cleo, did the guy test his dragon at your place? Cleo didn't reply. She simply asked telepathically, how much did you pay for these two pets? About 400 million each, no more than 1 billion in total. Hurry up and establish the contracts. I'll test them in my place, Cleo instantly urged her. She was thinking exactly as the brown-haired young man did. She believed that the shop had never tested the vast sky thunderous dragons, and one of the seemingly inferior beasts acquired through certain channels turned out to have great potential. Oh, okay. Lily accepted the proposal, slightly shocked. She quickly finished the contract establishment. Hurry up and activate the test room. Cleo quickly gave orders. Lily became excited and hopeful after seeing Cleo's actions. She didn't even dream that the dragons would have Class A aptitudes, she would be satisfied even if they were only Class B. She wouldn't suffer any losses even if they were Class C. After all, Class C was quite normal, most of the pets on the market had Class C ratings. It was the most ordinary tier. Class C was already acceptable, Class B was excellent, and Class A was a rarely seen aptitude. A couple of customers entered the shop right behind them. They had failed to squeeze into Suaping's shop and were eager to find out the newly bought pet's aptitude. Cleo noticed this but chose to ignore them. She wasn't planning on hiding the assessment results either. It never crossed her mind that all the pets being sold would be Class A, which was in line with the brown-haired young man's reaction. The guy had obviously been the lucky one to have picked an unidentified treasure, so he quickly ran off, fearing that the boss would try to recover the pet. On the other side, inside Suaping's shop once Lily and Cleo left the shop, the other customers were even more anxious, considering that 2 fewer vast sky thunderous dragons were available. A middle-aged man at the front of the line hesitated for a moment but then gritted his teeth. Boss, I'd like to buy 3. He added, I'd like 3 void state vast sky thunderous dragons. Are they available? Yes. Suaping nodded. He restated the buying policy, seeing that the man was a new customer. You must establish contracts with the pets immediately, and you can't resell or terminate those contracts in 10 years. You have to request permission here if you must resell them. Do you accept the terms? The middle-aged man was obviously stunned, and so were the customers who hadn't heard about this. How could there be such bizarre terms? The pets would be mine after you sell them to me. Why do you care so much? Suaping ignored their doubts and simply stared at the customer. The middle-aged man's eyes flashed. He eventually gnashed his teeth and said, I'd like to buy 2 then. He could only contract 2 more pets. Suaping nodded and asked Joanna to bring another pair of dragons. This one goes for 430 million, and that one is 440 million, Suaping said. Around 400 million again? All the customers were shocked. Were all the vast sky thunderous dragons in Suaping's shop pegged at that price? If they were sold for 400 million, how much did they cost when they were bought? This shop doesn't accept installments. Can you pay up front? Asked Suaping. No problem. The middle-aged man nodded. Boss, I'll pay 500 million, someone behind shouted, trying to bid for the pet. Some of the other customers joined the bidding and made more offers. I'll pay 800 million. 1 billion. 1 billion 50. Soon after, the price rose to 1.5 billion, which was the market price for void state vast sky thunderous dragons. The price could actually go higher, but the brown-haired young man's confusing and hasty departure made many people feel that everything was just a publicity stunt. If that was the case, it was unlikely that the rest of the dragons would have a similar aptitude. That was the most logical scenario. How could a pet shop owner be dumb enough to sell a vast sky thunderous dragon with Class A aptitude so cheaply? The middle-aged man looked awful once he heard the onslaught of biddings. He couldn't pay 3 billion up front for the 2 pets at the moment. Suaping glanced at the customers but didn't try to stop them. He finally spoke when no one proposed a higher bid. I get to decide the prices in my shop. Not a coin more, not a coin less. Like I said, if you want them, come here early, and immediately establish contracts with the pets. His announcement stunned everybody. All the customers looked at Suaping in disbelief. They couldn't believe what they had just heard. He wouldn't sell the pets for 1.5 billion each. 2 of them would add to 3 billion. He would only make 970 million with the current price. The gap was over 2 billion. Is this shop really open to make money? Is it actually doing charity? Or is this some sort of novel marketing approach? While faced with eyes of disbelief and confusion, Suaping looked at the middle-aged man and asked, Do you have the money? Pay up if you do. The middle-aged man was also stunned. He thought that the pets would belong to someone else. Little did he expect that Suaping would insist on the original price. If he weren't sure he wasn't connected to Suaping's shop whatsoever, he would have suspected that the latter had hired him to act out the purchase and thus attract everyone's attention. Even though he was confused and lost, the middle-aged man didn't hesitate, fearing that Suaping might regret his decision. He quickly paid with his phone. Once he received the money, Suaping checked his balance and said calmly, Go and settle the contracts. The middle-aged man nervously walked to where the vast sky thunderous dragons were, only to find that they had sharp and brutal eyes. They seemed to be excellent beasts. Had it not been for their low prices, they would have attracted the attention of many people. He quickly completed the contracts and sent the dragons to his contract space. Thank you, boss. After expressing his gratitude, the middle-aged man left for the assessment shop, intent to find out why the pets were so cheap. Once the man left, the second person in line, who was a void state man with deep eye sockets, said, I'd like to buy a fate state vast sky thunderous dragon. Suaping looked at the fate state vast sky thunderous dragon nearby. A price soon popped up in his head. 990 million, said Suaping. Everybody was shocked once again. A fate state pet being sold for just $1 billion? It's a dragon. Even a mediocre sub-dragon would have been much more expensive if it reached the fate state. The man was also stunned for a moment. He wasn't too delighted by the reply, rather, it made him frown. He would have been happy if the price was slightly lower compared to other shops. However, it was so low that he felt uncomfortable, as if he were buying a flawed pet. "Boss, is there something wrong with this pet?" the man asked straight away. Suaping raised his eyebrows and replied casually, "No. The only problem would be that it's not strong enough." Many people misconstrued his words. Not strong enough? Are you implying that it's extremely weak? That's like the biggest problem possible. The man's frown deepened as he asked, "How weak is it? Can it defeat its peers?" "It can defeat the normal ones," said Suaping. "But there's nothing it can do in front of star state enemies." The man was at a loss for words. "I wasn't asking you if it could fight a star state enemy." He didn't even consider the possibility, as the pet was unlikely to have an Class S aptitude, which could allow it to defeat enemies one level higher. The rest of the customers in the shop thought the same, they were also rendered speechless. "Do you want it?" Suaping asked with a slight frown. The middle-aged man thought for a moment and shook his head. Never mind, hardly had he said that when exclamations burst out on the street. "Another Class A rating! Oh my god, another vast sky thunderous dragon with Class A aptitude! It's unbelievable! 2 pets with Class A aptitude have emerged on this street the same day." The people in Suaping's shop were dumbfounded by the exclamations. Another vast sky thunderous dragon with Class A aptitude? Let's go there and find out. I think the commotion is happening at the assessment shop. The customers who were too behind in the line and knew they didn't have a chance were distracted by the noises and left the shop. More and more customers at the end of the line decided to leave the shop. The assessment shop was crowded with customers again. Everyone present was looking at the testing pillar in the lobby, which was emitting an astounding purple light. Very soon, the data displayed gradually stabilized in the purple area. The final rating was Class A. Not A, but straight A. There were 3 levels in the same rating, namely plus, straight, and. The ratings without and or meant it was the nominal value. That vast sky thunderous dragon turned out to have an even greater aptitude than the previous one. More importantly, since it had a straight A aptitude, it also meant that it was a different dragon. The shop had assessed 2 pets with Class A aptitudes in one day. It was unbelievable. Well, the purple-haired Cleo behind the counter was gazing at the readings on the device in her hands, too shocked to speak. Lily, who was shorter than her but still taller than most girls, was equally stunned. It was a Class A beast. The pet being tested was one of the vast sky thunderous dragons she had just bought. It was beyond her expectations. The pet turned out to be even stronger than the vast sky thunderous dragon that caused a hit earlier. After a few minutes passed, Cleo was finally unable to hold back. "How is this possible?" "Yes, how is it possible? A pet that only cost 400 million had a Class A rating." She almost found it surreal. Cleo suddenly had a thought and then had the second vast sky thunderous dragon tested. Soon, the data of the second dragon was out. It was A. Cleo held her breath when the indicator stopped in the purple sector. Considering her experience as the assessment shop owner, most pets that reached the purple area readings would have A ratings in the end. Was it possible that both of the pets that Lily had bought would have an A class? If that was the case, considering the brown-haired young man's pet, which was obviously bought in Suaping's shop, 2-3 Class A pets had been sold in a row. To top it off, all those pets were vast sky thunderous dragons, the most popular pets. Cleo had trouble breathing. What the shop had done was too horrifying. "Let's go to that shop right now. We'll buy all the other pets no matter what." Cleo came to her senses after hearing all the exclamations in the lobby. Her usually cold and calm face was overflowing with madness. Lily, who was standing next to her, was still stunned. Her ears were ringing. Never had she thought that, being a bottom-level member of the Rein family, she would get the chance to have 2 Class A pets one day. Most importantly, the pets were vast sky thunderous dragons which had a star-state bloodline. She would be able to use the pets for a long time. Whoosh! While everybody exclaimed, Cleo flashed out of her shop and instantly reached the Pixie Pet Store through a secret spatial technique. Cleo was even more shocked by the mysterious shop. Suaping's shop was currently not as crowded as before. The shocking news of yet another Class A pet had distracted a lot of people's attention. While those people followed the news, Suaping completed the transactions of another 5 vast sky thunderous dragons. 2 of them were Fate State dragons which were purchased by a Void State battle pet warrior. She was a 30-something woman of average looks. Nevertheless, she had an enticing body figure. This woman replaced the middle-aged man who had declined the purchase, paying for 2 dragons up front. She didn't hesitate, although either of the dragons had cost only 990 million. Even if there was anything wrong with any of the 2, she could resort to spending a few billion for a trainer to treat them. Besides, she had a trainer friend who could give her a discount. She couldn't possibly suffer a loss. She had planned to buy out all the remaining Fate State dragons in Suaping's shop, but she could only buy 2 because she only had 2 open pet spots. 3 more Void State dragons were then bought by 2 Ocean State battle pet warriors. One person who was at the front of the line was a 9th-rank battle pet warrior. Even though he was next in line, there were no Ocean State pets at the moment. He had to give away his spot to someone else considering the store's policy to directly seal a contract with the purchased beasts. Another Class A pet. Oh my god, it's already the 3rd one, isn't it? Is this a special day? Am I dreaming? All 3 of them are vast sky thunderous dragons. Did he search the entire rumbling thunder continent and find all the best ones? Exclamations came from the street again and shocked a lot of people inside the shop. 3? What is going on? Damn it, is it possible that all the 3 vast sky thunderous dragons were bought here? I saw that the 2 women went straight to the assessment shop. Tell me about it. I know one of them, her name is Cleo. She's from the Rein family and runs the assessment shop. Everybody whispered and looked at Suaping in a weird way. Were the 3 Class A vast sky thunderous dragons sold by Suaping just then? The customers who had just purchased pets were also stunned and had pounding hearts. If that was the case, it was possible that they had also bought excellent pets. I should hurry and test them. Someone couldn't hold it any longer and was intent to have the pets tested. Cleo entered the shop at that moment. Her expression had a slight change when she heard the whispers. She quickly went to Suaping's counter and said, "Boss, I'll take all the remaining pets in your shop. Just name your price. How about 50 billion? All the customers were excited. She's Cleo. She's the woman we saw just now. 50 billion? So, the Class A pets that were just assessed really came from this shop. Everybody was astounded, and a young man in the middle of the line shouted, "Boss, I want them. I'll pay 60 billion. There was another change in Cleo's expression. Knowing she couldn't keep it a secret any longer, she slapped the counter and stared at Suaping before she declared in a dominant fashion, "I'll pay 100 billion, or 200 billion if it's not enough. Just name your price. I'll take all of them." She would not take no for an answer. No one made a sound. The price was raised to 200 billion? Or any number Suaping wanted. It seemed that the Class A pets had indeed been purchased at this shop. Why else would she act in such a crazy manner? The young man waiting in line was also shocked by Cleo's determination. He hesitated, because he might have to borrow money from his family if he wanted to offer a higher price, which meant that he would owe someone a favor. Besides, he wasn't sure whether or not the remaining pets in Suaping's shop were all Class A. He would earn a lot if they were, but he would be screwed if they weren't. Everyone was currently gazing at Suaping and holding their breath. 200 billion. That was more than what many Void State Battle Pet warriors could earn in their entire lives. They couldn't make 200 billion unless they found a desolate Tier 5 planet that didn't have many experts, so that they could loot most of the planet's revenue. However, such Tier 5 planets were extremely rare. How could they find one so easily? Let me repeat myself. Suaping remained calm when Cleo stared at him from close up. He had to admit that the woman had beautiful eyes. Her pupils seemed to be hidden by silver rays of light. Plus her pretty face and her vague fragrance, few people could refuse her when she stared up close. However, Suaping was already used to Joanna. He was rarely amazed, except when he looked at himself in the mirror. If you want to buy anything in this shop, wait in line and don't cut in. And another thing, I'm the one who decides the price, not you. Whether it's 10 billion or 10 trillion, the price that I announce is fixed. No bargaining, said Suaping casually. He talked in a calm and poised way, but his heart was bleeding. 200 billion. Damn you, system, did you hear that? Suaping's words rumbled in everybody's ears. All of them were looking at him in shock. He had been offered 200 billion, but Suaping then said that no bargaining was allowed? Was he really insisting on selling the pets at such a low price? Cleo was slightly surprised, too. Once she snapped out of her shock, she looked at the young man with disbelief in her eyes. Is this guy deaf? Did he not hear my offer? If you're unsatisfied, just keep raising the price. Give me a number. After saying that, Suaping ignored the woman and looked at the vast sky thunderous dragon nearby, before he said, this vast sky thunderous dragon is at the fate state. Its price is 990 million. PFF. Everybody was astounded again. Suaping had just refused a buyer who offered 200 billion, and he was selling this pet for only 990 million? Cleo was also dumbfounded. She observed Suaping carefully, only to find that the young man was calm, seemingly talking in earnest. He's truly crazy. The next moment Cleo suddenly had an epiphany. Yes, why on earth would someone sell a Class A pet for 400 million if he weren't crazy? The two pets that Lily had just bought cost no more than 1 billion in total. However, they had been assessed to have legitimate Class A aptitudes. She could only conclude that such a crazy man in his shop didn't care in the slightest about making. Why would they do this? Cleo was befuddled, but she thought quickly and came up with a solution. She suddenly turned around and said to the man at the front of the line. Give up your spot to me. Seeing that, Suaping frowned. As I said, no line cutting. 1 billion. Give me your spot, said Cleo, apparently not taking no for an answer. The man was about to refuse her when he heard the number. He was shocked, but he soon shook his head and said, sorry, but I want to buy it. A Class A pet was being sold at such a low price that even he could afford it. The pet could be worth 100 billion if it was resold, yet this woman wanted his spot for only 1 billion? After being declined, Cleo's expression had a slight change as he gazed at him. 10 billion. Sorry. 50 billion. So think carefully. I'm from the Ryan family. Cleo straight out threatened him. The young man changed his expression. He was truly tempted by the 50 billion offer. He wasn't confident that the pet he was going to buy would have a Class A aptitude. Even though the first 3 pets had been confirmed, who could promise him that all the other pets were the same? On the other hand, if he accepted Cleo's proposal, he could surely earn 50 billion. Well, I'll give you another 10 billion. Think carefully, said Cleo gravely. The customers still waiting in line didn't like Cleo's attitude. However, she had claimed she was from the Ryan family, they could only hold back and stop trying to compete with her. Nevertheless, it was still insane of her to pay 60 billion for just a spot. Fine, I'll give it to you. The young man hesitated for a long time and then gritted his teeth. But you have to pay me up front. No problem. I'm a VIP member of the Universe Bank. My transfer limit is 100 billion, said Cleo casually, regaining her calmness after the man accepted her proposal. At the same time, she was secretly relieved. Sui Ping stared at them expressionlessly while standing behind the counter. Once their conversation was over, he finally said, "Sorry, but no spots can be sold in this shop. Please leave if you don't want to buy the pet." Both of them were stunned. Cleo couldn't help but glare at him. "Boss, are you purposefully giving me a hard time? This is nothing personal. I'm simply saying that all of you are Garkov." I misspoke. Let me rephrase. This is nothing personal, all of you are just cough, it's just one of the rules in this shop that every customer has to follow, said Sui Ping. Cleo felt like her heart had just been heavily struck after hearing that. Is that really not personal? She grimly looked at the long line and said to Sui Ping, "Boss, if I pay them and ask them to leave, would I be the first in line?" Sui Ping said expressionless, "That's possible, as long as you can make it." Cleo felt like it was personal again. She turned around grimly. It would cost her 60 billion for her to assume the first man's place. Did she have to pay the same to the second, third, and the other customers in the line? They wouldn't give away their spot if her offer was low, and she couldn't afford it if her offer was too high. There were many other families, organizations, and forces, but they all had to respect them. Sui Ping raised his eyebrows and said indifferently, "Like you said, you're a customer as much as everybody else. Why must I sell it to you, and why can't you follow the rules like everybody else?" He slightly modified Cleo's words and threw them back at her. Enraged, Cleo said, "There are so many people in your shop. Will there still be any pets left when my turn arrives? If there aren't any, you can come early next time," said Sui Ping. Cleo stomped in fury and demanded, "Are you saying I should just stand outside your shop every day? Rules are just words. If a Star State warrior were here, would you ask them to follow your rules too?" She thought Sui Ping was simply going against her. There were no rules in that world when it came to real experts. If the leader of the Rein family, or any other Star State experts, were to show up, he would definitely invite them in. If a Star Lord were there, he would probably even offer pets for free. Sui Ping became indifferent. Even if gods were here, they would have to wait in line if they want to buy a pet from this shop. You! Cleo was so mad she could hardly breathe. She and Sui Ping had never met before, there was no way she had ever offended him. She was a beautiful woman who belonged to the Ryan family. Why did the guy have to give her a hard time? Did he hold a grudge against the Ryan family? As she thought of it, she suddenly wondered if the guy really considered the Ryan family as an enemy. Her eyes flashed, she suddenly calmed down and then thought of many things. He had sold 3 vast sky thunderous dragons with Class A aptitudes, which already meant a loss of 100 billion. If Lily, another member of the Ryan family, weren't one of the customers, she would have suspected that it was this shop's marketing strategy. Wait a minute. She suddenly became confused when she thought of Lily. Lily is also from the Ryan family. Why did Sui Ping sell her pets so easily? Is it because Lily's position in the family was too low and the guy doesn't know it? The more she thought about it, the more likely Cleo found it to be. She decided to check the shop's background in the tax bureau. She remembered that the shop had existed on that street for years but never caught any attention in the past. Little did she expect that it would cause such a huge tide. Please wait in line. Even if the pets are sold out, this shop still offers training services that can strengthen your own pets, said Sui Ping casually. He wasn't really hostile towards the woman. It was just business. Cleo looked at Sui Ping in confusion and thought for a moment, before she said, "Okay, I'll take a look then." She then headed to the end of the line, only to find that it had already extended out of the shop. Cleo was at a loss for words. but she held back and stood at the end of the line obediently. She also sent a message to a member of her family and asked him to help investigate the shop. With Cleo's competitive bidding gone, the remaining Vast Sky Thunderous Dragons were soon sold out. All the remaining customers looked awful, filled with regret for having run out earlier. They would have had a better chance to get to the front of the line when everybody else had left. Suoping had earned more than 50 million energy points once the 10 dragons were sold. He had gathered almost 100 million energy points. This would allow him to upgrade the Chaos Spirit Pool immediately. Still, instead of the upgrade, he chose to buy the Thunder Ocean Fruit first. The Chaos Spirit Pool could be much more effective than before after being upgraded to level 5, with the chance of breeding Star State pets. The Star State actually included the Star State, the Star Lord State and the Ascendant State. The Star State was the system's collective name for the 3 sub-levels. Above the Star State was the Divine State. Although that was too far away from Suoping at the moment. However, he knew that the cost for each breeding session in the Chaos Spirit Pool was 100 million, which was the same as the cost of upgrading. He could create Ascendant State pets if he was unbelievably lucky. However, the odds of that happening were quite low, getting Fate State beasts was more likely. It wasn't easy for Suoping to earn 100 million presently. He felt that he would become depressed if he were to spend 100 million on a Fate State beast. Everything that had happened assured him that he was not a son of destiny or favored by the goddess of fortune. If he intended to win against the odds, he had to invest much more than he could afford. Besides, even if he upgraded the Chaos Spirit Pool, he would run out of money and would remain unable to use the upgraded Chaos Spirit Pool. The Thunder Ocean Fruit, on the other hand, might be gone for good if it disappeared. He had to seize it. A young man who finally had his turn asked nervously, "Boss, are there any more Vast Sky Thunderous Dragons?" He had heard that 10 dragons had been delivered to the shop the day before, while 10 had already been sold. He wasn't sure if any more of them were still available. No. Suoping shook his head. He had already trained the white-scaled drakeling to reach a mid-high aptitude, and the high aptitude wasn't far off. He wouldn't sell it easily. Everybody sighed in frustration after seeing that Suoping shook his head, even though they had seen it coming. Those pets were regular beasts at first. They couldn't have gotten mid-level aptitudes without the training done in this shop. Suoping knew it was an opportunity to promote. You can consider the training services in this shop. They will be worth every penny. Training services. Can you give them Class A aptitudes with your training? Can you train any kind of pet? Many people asked questions. Suoping had become quite trustworthy when he talked about training since he had indeed sold 3 Class A Vast Sky Thunderous Dragons. Many customers thought it was impossible to catch 3 wild Class A dragons in a row, so there was the chance they might have been trained. However, some other customers simply observed coldly without feeling tempted. All of them knew that Suoping's dragons had been shipped over the day before. One day was probably enough for assessments, but not nearly enough for them to be trained, unless he was a master trainer. The trainers in the Federation were divided into 5 tiers, each with a corresponding number of stars. There were 5 levels in each tier, classified by 5 crystals. The 5-starred trainers were the weakest, but they were more respected than Ocean State Warriors. The 5-starred trainers were known as the Holy Spirit Trainers on the Blue Planet. They could enlighten pets with talents. Underneath the 5-starred trainers were the 9 crystal trainers. They were also known as apprentice trainers. The most famous trainer on Rhea was a 4-starred trainer. He dedicated his services to the Rein family and had special privileges. As for the 3-starred master trainers, even the leader of the Rein family would have to treat them respectfully. 2-starred trainers were extraordinary trainers that the leader of the Rein family wasn't even qualified to meet. 1-starred trainers, who were at the top of the tiers, were also known as the godly trainers. They were the most admired in the Federation, even Ascendant State Warriors would have to treat them respectfully. To train regular vast sky thunderous dragons until they had Class A aptitude overnight was something that even the 4-starred master trainer working for the Ryans couldn't do. This shop offers two kinds of training services. The first kind is the normal training. Your pet will grasp at least one new skill, or slightly increase its combat ability with each training session. The second kind is professional training, which will significantly increase your pet's aptitude, but it takes longer and costs more, said Suaping. Seriously? Pets would grasp a new skill after each training session? Do minor skills count? Someone couldn't help but ask. Suaping said, the skills they perceive will be at least of their own level. Are you serious? If a pet is at the Fate state, will it grasp a Fate state skill? That is correct. Suaping nodded. Everybody looked at each other in bewilderment and shock. That sounded too unbelievable. The young man at the front who failed to buy a dragon gritted his teeth and made a decision. Boss, I want to train my pet. He then asked, I intend to have an ocean state starflower dragon trained. Is it possible? What's the price? Yes, said Suaping, normal training costs 100 million, while professional training goes for 10 billion. To enable a king-level professional training required a high-aptitude beast king to be trained. Suaping's dark dragon hound was exactly a high-aptitude pet at the peak of the ocean state. That expensive? Everybody was shocked for a moment, but then they were back to normal. The price was slightly higher than the cost to hire a regular 5-starred trainer, but much lower than that of a 4-starred trainer. After all, it required tens of billions to hire a 4-starred trainer to develop a pet. If the trainer had 4 stars and 5 crystals, it would mean that he was only second to the 3-starred master trainers. His services would cost 100 billion. However, 3-starred master trainers mostly catered to star state pets. While 100 billion was slightly expensive for star state experts, it was still affordable. Boss, is the trainer in your shop 5-starred or 4-starred? Asked someone curiously. Suaping raised his eyebrows. He had just moved to a place more in touch with all the Federation and wasn't familiar with many things. He said, that's a secret. Boss, just tell us. Your shop will definitely hit the headlines if you have a 4-starred trainer, someone encouraged him. Suaping said casually, I'm not interested in that. The training will be effective. If you've tried it and found it unsatisfactory, you don't have to come again. Everybody was slightly confused and awed by Suaping's statement. He's that confident? Exclamations were heard coming from the street. Oh my god, another Class A vast sky thunderous dragon. What happened today? Why are there so many Class A vast sky thunderous dragons showing up in a row? Did something happen to the rumbling thunder continent? So many vast sky thunderous dragons with Class A aptitude have emerged out of nowhere. The exclamations would have been inaudible to ordinary people, but they came from the assessment shop, which wasn't soundproof to the ears of the battle pet warriors in Suaping's shop. Everybody was shocked at the moment. They looked at Suaping with awe and fear. Did all the battle pets sold in Suaping's shop have Class A aptitude? Cleo, who was standing at the end of the line, changed her expression and hurriedly asked the employees in her shop about the situation. Soon, her employees replied. They confirmed that the person who had a pet assessed was a customer from Suaping's shop. Cleo couldn't have looked more awful after reading the message. She had not made up her mind in time to buy out all the remaining pets, even though she had intended to. She currently felt she had missed a fortune. Another one with Class A aptitude. So does this one. Oh my god, it's the 6th one. Exclamations were bursting out consecutively. All the people present in Suaping's shop were stunned. Those who had previously been at the front of the line but later given up their spots were on the verge of a meltdown when they heard the exclamations. They could have bought one of those dragons if they hadn't left to snoop around at the assessment shop. Many of them lost their cool, wanting to slap their own faces. So does this one, a Fate state pet with a Class A aptitude. Oh my god, it's already the 2nd one. The 9th one is the same. Please hit me. Am I dreaming? Exclamations were heard non-stop. The customers who had bought pets from Suaping's shop went to the nearest assessment shop to check their aptitudes, which was already teeming with people. Suaping's shop, however, was dead silent. None saw it coming. Their speculation actually came to pass. 10 vast sky thunderous dragons had been sold in Suaping's shop, and 9 had already been checked to have an A class. So, all of them had to be Class A. Soon, exclamations echoed again. The 10th one is also A class. I can't freaking believe this. The customers inside Suaping's shop, however, were already too numb to hear anything. Suaping heard the noises too and raised his eyebrows. He didn't expect that a mid-level aptitude according to the system would actually equate to a Class A in the Federation. He didn't know if Class A was the highest quality. Suaping decided that he had to find out more about the aptitude ratings in the Federation through his Lord badge. What about it? Do you want to train your pet? Suaping asked, breaking the silence in the shop. Wow! Everybody was woken up all of a sudden, as if a bomb had been detonated in the shop. All of them shouted in awe. All Class A! Oh my God! Please tell me that my ears are deceiving me. How can I tell you anything if your ears are deceiving you? What pet do you intend to train? Suaping seemed very calm. His successful operation on the blue planet had assured him that the business in his shop would flourish as long as he gained enough popularity. He was quite confident of the system's criteria and his training, or rather, torturing abilities. Kero whale, replied the young man quickly. He added, it's in the advanced phase of the ocean state. It's quite timid. He was going to continue introducing his pet. Do you want normal training or professional training? Suaping interrupted him and asked. The basics of a pet would become obvious in a training session. Even if the pet had certain special problems, they couldn't affect his special way of training. After all, no animal was unafraid of death. Even the undead beasts that had died once were still afraid of being devoured by other undead beasts. Well, normal training, please. The young man thought for a moment and chose the safer option. Besides, he couldn't pay 10 billion at once, which wasn't a small amount of money. Many magnates who had assets worth hundreds of billions might not even have a lot of liquid assets. All right, summon your pet and make the payment, said Suaping. He took out a notebook and was ready to write the customer's name down. He felt like he was doing business in Longjiang Base City again, when he had to write down the customers' names in case he confused them. Should I summon it here? Yes. The young man soon summoned his battle pet and then transferred the money to Suaping. Joanna walked over and led the Kero whale into the pet room. It was a pet suitable for marine battles. It looked quite fat and cute when it was miniaturized in the shop. The young man affectionately watched his pet leave, and then gave away his spot when Suaping dropped a hint. Boss, how long will the training take? Asked another young man behind him. Normal training takes a day or two, while professional training takes half a month, said Suaping, who stated a longer time than what it would actually take. After all, he obviously had to train multiple pets in different batches after that day, which would take a much longer time. Hey, the second young man and everybody behind him were stunned. The training length that Suaping had just announced was incomprehensible to them. Normal training would normally take at least a month, devoted training could take years. They had never heard of any pet that could be trained within half a month, unless the trainer was very strong and the beast to be trained was of a low rank. For example, it would only take a 4-star trainer a day or two to train a 3rd-rank pet, but it would take a month for him to train an ocean state pet. Boss, isn't it too quick? The young man couldn't help but ask. Suaping said indifferently, if you think it's too quick, you're free to claim it several months later. Of course, you would need to pay extra nursing fees to keep it in this shop. The young man was at a loss for words. He thought it over carefully, deciding to have his pet trained in the end. After all, seeing 10 Class A battle pets was too shocking. The fact that so many pets were being sold on the cheap suggested that either So Ping's shop was not interested in profits or all the customers were in fact hired actors. Even if the second case was true, the shop was quite remarkable to have obtained 10 vast sky thunderous dragons with Class A aptitudes. Everybody suspected that So Ping's shop might be assisted by a 4-starred trainer. The customer summoned his pet and made the payment. Very soon, the second training transaction was completed. He also chose normal training. After all, few people who weren't rich enough would spend 10 billion on potentially risky professional training. Next, So Ping continued. Time zipped by. A few customers who didn't plan to train their pets left the line. The vast majority decided to try training their pets in So Ping's shop. Cleo was one of them. Her turn was almost up. Cleo stepped forward and said, "I'd like to get professional training." She was cold and still unhappy about So Ping's refusal, speaking as dominantly as she usually did. "My pet is a vast sky thunderous dragon in the advanced phase of the fate state. It currently has a straight B aptitude. Can you give it AORA aptitudes through training?" Everybody was looking at her with surprised faces, not expecting that she had a Class B fate state vast sky thunderous dragon. That was an already excellent pet. It could defeat 80% of the enemies in its level. It would almost be matchless among its peers if it was upgraded to A aptitude. So Ping raised his eyebrows and said indifferently, "The training is my responsibility. I can only guarantee that it'll be worth the tiny amount of money you paid." Everybody was rendered speechless when So Ping referred to 10 billion as a tiny amount of money. That made them look at So Ping with even more hopeful eyes. 10 Class A vast sky thunderous dragons had almost been sold for free at the shop. Maybe So Ping was really not in want of money. Cleo's expression had a slight change. She remembered the 2 Class A dragons that So Ping sold to Lily, which would cost more than 10 billion elsewhere. This guy probably doesn't care about the 10 billion. She narrowed her eyes ever so slightly, but her pride stopped her from giving in to a man. She said, "I know you're not short of money, but can you promise that my pet's aptitude will be increased by 1 level, at least to B and after the training?" So Ping almost felt like laughing. Considering the high-profile dragons he had sold, he had already figured out what a Class A aptitude meant. He could accomplish the task even with the normal training. If it came to professional training, he would not stop until the pet attained a high-level aptitude. That was the system's requirement. High-level aptitudes were greatly different and much better than those at mid-level. However, he was reluctant to concede after seeing the woman aggressively demand a promise. So Ping had almost lost his cool when he heard the offers made for the pets. He was even more regretful than those who had failed to buy the pets. "I don't offer any promises. If you want to train your pet here, I'll be happy to oblige. If you don't, please get out of here." "See you," said So Ping indifferently. Cleo was rather embarrassed. She was well appreciated even within the Rein family thanks to her beauty and talents, and yet she suffered consecutive setbacks when facing So Ping. "When did I piss off this guy?" She secretly gritted her teeth. After seeing how cold and calm So Ping was, she eventually clapped her hands and summoned her pet. "Fine. Let's find out how good you are." She then quickly transferred the money to So Ping. Everybody's eyes glittered when they saw how So Ping disrespected a major client such as Cleo. They had acted prudently by paying 100 million for normal training fees, worried that they might be tricked. But the more arrogant So Ping behaved, the more reliable they found the shop to be. "Anna, take it to the back." So Ping ordered casually once he saw Cleo's fate state dragon. Joanna approached them. Cleo instantly said, "Don't come any closer, it's quite violent and will attack any stranger." "Let me soothe it first." She was stunned before she could finish. Everybody saw that Joanna stood close to the dragon and straight off patted its wings, which were its most sensitive parts. Still, the pet didn't respond aggressively afterwards. Joanna then turned around left. The vast sky thunderous dragon followed her as if it were her battle pet. Cleo's eyes almost popped out. My pet, abandoning its masters so easily. They had been together for such a long time, she had never known it was actually a lustful dragon. It turned out to be tame and obedient in front of a prettier girl. Cleo was so angry she gnashed her teeth in fury. Sui Ping's eyes twitched a bit when he saw the money he received, but he remained calm and said, "Do you need to train other pets? 10 billion could be converted to 100 million energy points." The vast sky thunderous dragon that Cleo had paid for was enough for him to upgrade the chaos spirit pool in his shop. Adding up the training fees he had previously collected, Sui Ping had gathered almost 300 million energy points. "No," said Cleo angrily and then left. But very soon, she looked back and said, "I'll test the pet carefully after the training is completed." Sui Ping raised his eyebrows upon hearing her threat. He coldly replied, "By my guest." "Humph!" Cleo snorted angrily and stormed out when she saw his reaction. Quite a few cars rushed close and stopped in front of Cleo's assessment shop when Sui Ping was collecting money in his shop. "Are there 10 battle pets with Class A aptitudes here? Hello, I'm a reporter. Just now, we received a message that said, really? It's true? They're all vast sky thunderous dragons. Wow, I got them. They really are." The reporters soon found what was going on inside the assessment shop and were shocked. It was a thrilling piece of news. 10 vast sky thunderous dragons with Class A aptitude had appeared out of nowhere, right at the critical moment when the pet contest was about to begin. It would attract everybody's attention. The reporters interviewed the customers excitedly and soon found the source of the pets. As it turned out, all the pets originated from one pixie pet store at the turn of the street. Soon after, all the reporters swarmed into Sui Ping's shop.